that software loads.
Yep. It actually says we are live, so that's good. We'll give it a few moments to flip over here. There's a lag between you and I talking and when it actually hits YouTube. So I always want to give it a minute. And then there's an ad. So good evening, everybody. Happy Tuesday night. Glad we're back. Sorry about the technical difficulties last week. It looks like everything has been sorted out, but a couple of things. Thank you all very much for joining us on a Tuesday night. Really appreciate that. We've got a special guest, Tactical Considerations. Very excited to have you guys get to know him and just have a fun talk. Of course, we'll answer a bunch of questions and that sort of thing. So Tactical Considerations, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you doing tonight?
You know, I'm doing okay. It's another night. It's another exciting night, and I'm glad to be back streaming again. Last week was a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah, it was my first time. Didn't work out so well.
Yeah, I'm glad we broke you in just right, with nothing working properly.
Yeah. Sorry, baptism by fire, I guess, right?
Now that's how it goes, man. Technology is wonderful and terrible all at the exact same time, for sure.
Very true. Very true.
So, people are wandering in. So tell us a little bit about yourself. So whatever you want to share, whatever you're comfortable with sharing, but a little bit about you, and also tell us a little bit about your channel as well.
Yeah, so I guess about me. So I'm Arizona native, man. I was born and raised out here in the Southwest. Did some time in the military. Got out of there, did some college, did some private sector work for a while, and currently a law enforcement officer out here in Arizona. So as far as the channel and stuff goes, man, it's kind of funny because I never thought I would ever be doing YouTube videos or social media, anything for that matter. And I just kind of stumbled into it. And for me, it's just been a lot of fun learning all the photography, videography, and editing software because I'm pretty much an old school knuckle dragon rock ape. If it's not a stick figure, that's the kind of artistic stuff that I have the ability to do. So it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun, and then just kind of helped me reconnect with some of the friends I've had in the industry that are still training and teaching or helping make stuff or help engineer parts and stuff. So it's been good, man. It's been a lot of fun. So hopefully it'll keep growing, and I'll keep having fun and keep getting to shoot new toys and try new parts and all that stuff.
That's awesome. Well, I have no doubt you're going to keep growing. There's no doubt about it. You've got a lot of good stuff going on. So tell us what kind of channel it is. I mean, if you could define it or put it in a box and wrap it up so everybody kind of has an idea of what the mission statement of your channel is, how would you describe that?
It's right now what it is. It's basically just a place for people to learn stuff to help them make decisions. Because the market is so flooded with so much stuff out there, and some of it's good, some of it's bad, and just the history of what I've done both in the military and now, and teaching and training and all that stuff, I have seen so much stuff come through the industry over the years, and it cycles so fast that this is the next greatest thing, and this is the next greatest thing. So it's kind of just a place like where people that maybe don't know a lot or are kind of just skeptical on something can come and learn something and hopefully leave with a little bit of good information and hopefully save themselves some money, because I've got like closets and bins full of junk that I've bought over the years or gear that's just outdated or something better came out. And, when you're young, especially young military guys, young law enforcement guys, they spend so much money on gear, and a lot of time it is just junk. And then you end up just wasting money on it. So that's kind of one of the things I always try to tell people is if you have a friend, try their stuff before you buy something.
Yeah.
Use your friends.
Right. Absolutely. No doubt about that. Now, actually, my good friend Shek has a question for you. He says, I want to know what he does that's the most tactical. So how would you answer
what I do?
What you do that is the most tactical?
Well, it's on the channel or just in real life?
However you want to frame it up, my friend.
I haven't really delved much into like training and tactics and all that stuff, like as far as videos. And that's for one very good reason. I'm smart enough to know what I don't know. And what I've done in the past and what I've done in the military and all that stuff, there are guys out there that are just far beyond me in the tactical training and, like SWAT tactics or, military special operations tactics, that I don't delve into that too much. I stay up to date on that because of my job, but I don't feel comfortable putting videos out like that, because that's like trying to say, oh, here, watch this. Oh, and then the next video is Pat McNamara or something like that. It's not my thing. As far as like real life, I'm constantly training, entering houses, clearing houses, warehouses, everything. So tactical stuff I do pretty much, every day, if not every week. I'm constantly on the range doing different things. I have a lot of friends I still go out and train with in the desert and do different things with. I just don't put that on the channel much, because there's so many good people out there doing that it's just not my thing. I wouldn't be as good at it as those guys.
Okay. Well, that's actually pretty cool. I respect that quite a bit. And I like that you said you're smart enough to know what you don't know, I believe you said.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, a lot of times we don't do that, right? We put out whatever because we think it's the best information we've got, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it isn't necessarily the best thing either. So very, very interesting. And he had a follow-up question to that, and this is interesting as well. Do you carry a backup while on duty and or off duty?
On duty, yes. Off duty, no. Because off duty, I'm generally, especially like right now in Arizona, it's 105 degrees or something today. I'm running around outside of work in a t-shirt and a pair of either gym shorts or cargo shorts. So I'm usually running an edged weapon and just a concealed carry, either a 19 or my 43X that I just got, or a 43. I recently just got rid of my PPS, my Walther PPS. Just didn't like the thing in the hand, so I got rid of that. But typically off duty one gun. If I'm on duty, I'm carrying two, usually a 17 and the 43 in some other holster, typically an ankle. Sometimes I do have a different vest holster, but that doesn't seem to be the most comfortable most times, just because of how the uniform wears.
Gotcha. Well, and that answered. Darren Bear had a question about you. Do you conceal carry off duty? So yes, and that would make sense. I mean, I would imagine most of your coworkers probably do. Correct?
Arizona, everybody has a gun. Everybody. You can't walk into a Circle K out here without comparing guns with somebody.
Oh wow.
It's a total freedom state, man. You're on a traffic stop or anything, little old gray hair ladies, you got a wimp. Dude, I got a 38 snub in my purse, and it's hilarious. I mean, I've sat there for like 10, 15 minutes on traffic stops and compared guns with people, and they're like, oh, I just got this new STI. A guy pulled us a brand new STI. And I'm like, that's awesome, dude. Can I check it out real quick? And they're kind of like, you mean like take it? I'm like, no, I just want to see it, So yeah, because we're a constitutional carry state, so you don't need a CCW out here. So I would say probably, like in my experience where I go and stuff, even at the gym, like 8 out of 10 people are carrying. It's crazy, but it's awesome. So this is why the murder rate is so low in Arizona, because you rob a bank out here, you're going to get 50 citizens pointing guns at you.
It's awesome. So along with that, though, I'm always curious because you're in law enforcement. So I guess on the other side of the fence, now I use that phrase a little bit loosely, and it's not a bad thing. But so are there situations where it's a little uncomfortable because you're saying so many people are armed, and hopefully they're all responsible citizens. We both know that's not necessarily true.
No.
So does that how does that work?
It's tough because you're judging situations constantly. Because you'll even meet, you're out with someone who's not a good individual, who probably has cases on them, and they're just not a prohibited possessor at this point. So you're just judging each scenario, how it goes. So it's just one of those things where you don't get to choose what happens in front of you. You just kind of got to deal with it. So, hopefully everything works out at the end of the day. But yeah, we're constantly taking guns off of felons. And California, everybody's leaving California, the 3 strikes rule. They came out here to Arizona, and constantly running into people like that or something. But everybody's different, and we've got a big population of people out here too that are very pro gun, but not so pro like government type people,
Mm-hmm.
And and they do things here and there. You know, we've had people with AK-47s standing on the sidewalk in front of the Jewish Cultural Center, things like that. So of course we get called, we show up, and it's just a matter of, hey, how are you guys doing? You know, and you got to walk up to them and talk to them. So that's a interesting event when you got 8 or 9 cops with ARs rolling up on 2 or 3 people out in front of a, you know, a religious center with AK-47s and stuff, and you're meeting in the middle somewhere. It can be weird, man. It can really be weird.
Yeah, God, I imagine it can. And I suppose that the objective is to really try and calm the situation, keep everybody cool, and you know, let calmer heads prevail as much as possible.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because you can't make them leave.
Yeah.
They're on the public sidewalk. So it's one of those things, you know, like you know, downtown Phoenix, you know, and then we've got a guy out here that walks through the airport, walks through Sky Harbor with an AR slung across his back. He just walks around prior to the security area, because it's public area, and Phoenix has been out there with that guy more than once. So you get some weird stuff out here, but that's everywhere. You get weird stuff, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No doubt about that. Kevin Roberts was saying years ago he was carrying a Colt Delta Elite 10 millimeter. Very cool, by the way, Kevin. And a police officer asked him if he was carrying a weapon. He said yes. Told him what it was, and he wanted to see it, and oogled it a little bit. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you get one type of person that's going to want to touch your gun. It's going to be us, because we're like, oh, look at this new toy. You know, it's like anybody else. We're all into the same thing. So
that's very cool. Very cool. Now, Rolling Thunder is asking a question. As a law enforcement officer, do you think your Canadian neighbors should have open and or concealed carry?
you know, here's my take on everything. I know I've got to spend time in Canada, up in Edmonton. I got to party on White Street with all the Canadian Airborne guys when I was doing some training with them up there. With the way I look at it is it's everybody's right to self-protection, and it kind of saddens me that some countries are just so strict on their own citizenry, and that to me, when a government is really that oppressive when it comes to self-defense, there's alarm bells going off in my head. And that's kind of weird to say coming from, I'm a law enforcement officer and a former military, but the way I look at it is, and this is what I tell people in the street all the time, I want everyone to have guns. I want more people to have firearms, because, you know, in the state of Arizona, there's a lot of rural area too. You're your own self-protection. You know, you're what you have. And then in Arizona, we've had multiple engagements where citizens have taken care of a scenario with the help of their Second Amendment rights. So I really wish Canada had, you know, a Second Amendment. For the most part, I wish Canada had a legit First Amendment too.
Right.
You know, they can get prosecuted for all kinds of stuff. And I feel for those guys. There's a ton of Canadians out here in Arizona, right around where I live. And I'll tell you what, those guys love going to some shooting ranges. Those Canadians come out here and they shoot up the ammo. I mean, they will buy out the ammo like you've never seen before when they go shooting, because it's just like a lot of them don't get it much. You know, they're relegated to certain things.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. So Dave Gass has an interesting question as well, and asking you and I both, do you have any other interests other than guns?
Oh yeah, I build hot rods. You know, I've been doing that ever since I was a kid. Big Studebaker guy. I'm too young to even know what a Studebaker is, but I got a 56 short bed Studebaker here. I got a 78 GMC C5. I think that's a C10 basically. It's slammed on airbags. 67, a 65 Falcon. We've built probably 40 or 50 cars, me and my old man, over the years. That's been just a lifelong passion. You know, what guy doesn't grow up, you know, working in a shop or something? Other than that, you know, the car stuff, the gun stuff, the training and all that, traveling. You know, I got married last year, so I actually just had my 1-year anniversary. But I love to travel. You know, ever since I went in the military, I got that bug. And you know, from being in Europe and over in the Middle East a couple times, I love to see other things, other cultures. And one of the things that I've wanted to do for probably the past 15 years is do that whole South American pyramid tour thing. But it's so freaking dangerous down there with the cartels now that even my friends I have some friends that live in that area, they're like, do not come down here. You know, it's just not safe. because I want to go through like Guatemala, Belize, and see all the ancient civilizations and stuff. That's kind of what I'm into, like on the side. So we travel a lot, me and my wife, which is cool because it also gives us both a chance to get a break from work, because she works more than I do for sure. So she gets stressed out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's very cool. It's good to have different passions and things that you're into. I mean, I'm a former musician, so that was certainly a lifelong passion. Now I'm not playing anymore, but still actively listen and enjoy music quite a bit. I'll tell you, the channel takes a lot of my time. So that really
Oh
is,
yeah.
yeah, it's a massive focus. So if I'm not at my real job, my day job, then I'm generally speaking doing something with the channel. I mean, I went and picked up a new toy tonight that'll be on at some point down the road. But then I was working on, you and I had a conversation about doing some upgrades on my review table, and you had some suggestions. Had that device with the camera that goes straight down. Still a goal, but this weekend I built a new frame out of wood for it.
Okay.
It was $27, and it's not nearly as pretty, but it actually doesn't sit on the table. It's outside of the table, so the table I can hit the table or whatever, and it wouldn't rock the camera or anything. And so now I've started to get in some of the mounting stuff, and I'm playing around with some different things. So then I'll have to learn how to do it because I've never tried top down. It's always been kind of bird's eye view with a camera between my legs. So now it would be top down. And I have to decide, and along with everybody else out there, if it looks any good or not, or if it looks weird. So that's going to be a learning process. But I dig stuff like that. I mean, you said you've been getting into the photography and the cinematography and everything. That has been a byproduct of all of this, and that's been a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I just got some wireless mics. So that was my splurge for the channel. Besides, I might have bought a couple new guns, but I've been kind of wanting to update a little bit of gear here and there, and kind of like you, it's budgetary because I work 4 days a week at my main job. Then I owned a business too that I just sold off recently. So I owned a window washing company for several years. It was like a side gig, and it got to the point where I either had to start hiring employees or letting it go. And I was like, I ain't dealing with employees. So I let it go. But yeah, the cinematography and the photography, that's always been something that always just amazed me, because just think about like how many movies we grew up watching as kids, and especially the stuff that they do now in movies and stuff. And I have some friends that are professional photographers, and it shocked me, like the photos and the eye that they have and how they can pick certain things up. So it's been a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, I'm kind of like you, the time constraints, and I've had to budget my time. Like I literally have like a schedule that I write down in my book here, that I stick to that schedule when I'm at the range, when I'm editing, when I'm responding, because it'll eat you alive, man. It really will. Just doing all this. I don't think a lot of people really understand, and I didn't for sure, how much work goes into producing quality content. Because like my first videos are atrocious, when you see them, and then once you start getting some good camera gear and some lighting and some like shotgun microphones or stuff, one's a huge investment, and then two, you start having to figure out how to take a shot or where to get an angle or how to run your editing software. And it's a time suck, man, and it'll eat you alive because there's just so much to learn. And I've got no, professional training when it comes to taking photos or video. Or I watched YouTube videos and learned how to edit on DaVinci Resolve, and I was kind of curious how to take better photos. And there was like those two channels we talked about, Think Media and Peter McKinnon, and I was like, oh, that's how you do it. And then I just kind of started doing things in a little bit of a different way. So, but it's fun, man. It really is.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and you learn as you go. And every video, I think you evolve just a tiny bit. Everyone is a little bit different. You get more comfortable. You have a better idea of what you want to say. And with good people like everybody out here that are willing to provide feedback, what they like, what they don't, that's incredibly invaluable, because you take that and you add that to what you've got. And every once in a while, it'll be a little outside of what you're really trying to do. But by and large, people will keep you on track, because that's what people want to see, and I think that's a really cool thing. Now we've got a couple of other questions here. Kathleen, music lover, long time chat participant. She said, "What does he shoot now?" So what do you shoot now? Let's say whether it be how about on duty, but then what do you enjoy shooting? What do you look forward to going to with the range?
My Kimber Tactical Entry 2. That's my favorite one. In fact, this is my old duty gun. I just hung up the hat on this one because it needs a complete rebuild. I've fired the thing out. I mean, it still works, but I'm coming up on all the springs. I need a barrel in it. It's got a lot of rounds through it. I carry Glock 17, the Gen 5 now, just because I haven't decided which. I'm either going to get another 1911 or if I'm going to get a 2011, and I really want to know what I'm going to do first before I go buy one and then decide, I should have got the 2011. So I'll probably end up buying a 2011 and carrying that. But the 1911 platforms are probably my favorite. There are some limitations, obviously outside the 2011, the round count. That whole argument of fat and slow or skinny and stupid, the 9mm, whatever everybody's into. But that, and then the M&Ps. I've been working on this one. That's the one that Floyd's Custom did for me. Those are two of my more liked guns. And then the new CZs. I know you've shot those too. Those things kind of surprised me, but definitely the 1911, the Kimbers, I'm a fan of, and the Glocks. I like Glocks too, just because of what they are. I mean, they just work. They run. You can throw garbage ammo in them. I've never had issues with Glocks. I know there have been, but it's one of those things where you can pick it up out of the box and I feel safe walking out of the store and never test firing that thing and carrying it right off the bat. The ergonomics of it aren't the best, but hey, we can get around that.
Right. Well, and so going along with that, and you've kind of answered this a little bit, but Rolling Thunder was asking, what's your favorite handgun? So overall, what is your favorite?
It's kind of like a two-part question because I have a long lost love that sold years ago, and that was my Chrome Desert Eagle 50, which was one of the dumbest guns I've ever bought. 50 Action Express. It was one of the first handguns I ever purchased when I was still in the military. But if I had to choose one that I could, and that was it, it would be a Tactical Entry 2 Kimber. That's just my favorite. That's about the point where it's custom enough to where it's really awesome, but you're not into that like Wilson combat craziness where it gets a little finicky with you, because the 1911s can get a little finicky, especially when you get them tight tolerances in there. You maybe don't use the best ammo, or if you don't know how to run that gun. That's the one thing people understand about 1911s. If you got a weak wrist or you don't run that gun, it's going to run you. So
Right. That's very true. Now, you mentioned 2011s, and Big Johnson was saying STI Host 2011 is nice for a law enforcement officer. So if you were to do a 2011, never mind the shirt, then what do you think you'd be going for potentially?
There's a couple different ones out there. My buddy, he's one of our range guys. He's actually got that Costa Ludus edition one. That thing is so nice, man. I don't think I want to go that crazy down the rabbit hole. I think that gun was approaching $3,000 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the STI's got that platform pretty much down at this point. From what I'm understanding, we got a bunch of guys carrying them now, and it's tough, man. Because every time I look at one, I want to upscale it to the next one, and it's just like that tough decision. So I haven't really picked a model yet, because the more I look, the more I want to buy a higher model. So I'm just going to have to wait until I have a certain amount of cash saved up, and then just slam that start button and have it sent over to my local shop for me. Because if I don't do that and I keep looking, I'm going to end up putting $4,000 on a credit card.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned that guys were starting to carry like 2011s, whether it be STIs or whatever they happen to be. That kind of blows my mind a little bit, and blows my mind for a couple of reasons. I mean, that's an expensive firearm, very expensive. 1911s, and I, at least around this area, I don't think I've seen a police officer carry a 1911 around here, and so that's fascinating that some of your buddies are doing that. Do you see an advantage to that, or is it just a style?
for because it was against policy for us when I started, and we got that changed. And the biggest thing for us was we wanted to make sure that people carried what they were most accurate and most comfortable with. And that's flat out what it comes down to. Because here's kind of like the rule that I've always kind of lived by and told people: if I take somebody out shooting for the first time, they've never handled a firearm, I'll hand them a Glock and they shoot that. And I look at Grandpappy's shotgun on the target, and then I tell them, hold on to this one, but do the same thing. And I hand them a 1911, and they're inevitably on that target, in a far quicker fashion than with like a striker fired system. So it's big out here, especially with the sheriff guys. They love 1911s. The Southwest, I think, has a little bit more of a following for the 1911s, except for California, but they're like pretty much their own country. But yeah, it's big out here. And when we got it approved, that's everybody wanted to carry it. One, it's because it's a 1911. I mean, people like them. The trigger is, everybody chases the 1911 trigger, right?
Right.
But for us, when we got that policy changed, I think about 9 years ago now, it was carry what you shoot best, carry what you manipulate best, what you're most accurate with. Because we got a ton of stuff that's open on the roster now, and most local agencies do, from Springfield XDs to H&Ks, SIG. I want to say that DPS was carrying the FNs. So our public safety department out here. So there's a wide variety of stuff out here to carry.
Interesting. So for 1911s, carrying one, if you go with a standard 1911, let's say 45 ACPs, so you're carrying 7 or 8 perhaps rounds, right? Then you've got backup magazines. How much of a consideration is that for you? I mean, a lot of people talk about, capacity maybe overpower a little bit. And I think I probably fall into that camp a little bit more as well. I'd probably rather have a couple more rounds than a beefier round, I suppose. How do you talk yourself into that? I mean, what's the drive behind going with a 1911 rather than a Glock 17 or something?
Well, the one good thing is it's heavy, so if you run out of ammo, you can hit them with it.
True.
But I just feel more comfortable with it. The thing I don't feel more comfortable with is being in the state of Arizona, where we're always sweaty and wet, and then we get those monsoon storms. It's constant maintenance. I mean, constant maintenance. I couldn't imagine running a 1911 on the East Coast where it's really humid. For me, it was just, I'm faster with it. Not quite so much anymore because I haven't been carrying that for, I want to say, about 1.5 years now. But as far as rounds go, yeah, I mean, it's great to have a lot of rounds, but from the career fields that I've been in carrying a gun for a living, those rounds count. You don't get to send a round down range and not owe for that round. You own it. So I guess that it means different things to different people. People are like, oh, I need all these rounds. I need all these rounds. Well, are you owning every round? Because if we send a round down range and you don't hit your intended target, or you hit a different target, that's a bad day.
Right.
And I think most civilians are in that boat too. But I always let's just say I carried the maximum amount of ammo. I was carrying a lot.
Yeah.
So, and then you just make sure your mag exchanges are there. You make sure you're on that front side on that target, and make sure your mag exchanges are quick. And that's kind of the way I looked at it. And I know a lot of guys that have been in engagements or shootings with 1911s, and they're all good to go. So if you're hitting your intended target and you're carrying the appropriate amount of ammo, I think you're good, as long as you're training with whatever you're running. But yeah, I would love to have a 200 round loadout, but it's not feasible for what we do.
Right. Well, I would imagine practical application. I'm a firm believer in having plenty of rounds, without question. In fact, I saw a Kansas City officer. He was hanging out at. We've got quite a few buildings downtown here. My company does, and he had, I think, 2 mags on the side. He had, I don't know, Glock 17, I think, but a couple mags on the side. But he had a vest, a tactical vest, and he had 3 more mags in the vest. Kind of below chest height, and
that's second line.
So that was pretty good loadout. That's a lot of firepower for one guy.
Yeah, so it definitely is, and we carry ARs too, or we carry our machine guns or whatever whatever you're issued, depending on what it is, because we do issue rifles, and then obviously the SWAT guys they carry the full auto stuff, and then you can carry your own rifle as well. So I have a 10.5 inch SBR that I carry, and you're issued ammo for that, but then you also have go bags. We got plenty of ammo there. Then I'll have 3 mags on me plus the one in. So there's ammunition there. But yeah, everybody's kind of got their own thing when it comes to their gear that they carry and their load that they carry. And I've seen some guys that are, on one end of it, and then I've seen guys that are on the other end where it looks like they're going into World War II. They've just got stuff all over them, and I'm like, man, how do you jump over a fence with all that crap on?
Right, right. Yeah, well, that's very much a consideration. It's good to have as much gear on so you've got the stuff you need, but there comes a point where you can't carry it all, right?
Exactly. And you see those, you talk about that guy you saw that's got this tactical vest and all this stuff on it. Okay, get over a 6 foot block wall with all that stuff on. And then as you're running down the road and that stuff's flying off, you're leaving a gypsy yard sale behind you, and all the guys behind you are picking up all your gear as they're running behind you. It's you laugh, but it happens, man. So,
It's pretty funny. It makes for good stories after the chase, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's pretty good. Now, Shaq had a question. Do you have to buy your own ammo, or is everything provided?
Duty ammo's provided, and then practice ammo. If you go to like the open range days and stuff like that. But as far as like the channel stuff, that's all me. So I spend a buttload of money on ammo, as I'm sure you do too. So anytime I see a sale on ammo, I have like a fund where I leave a certain amount of money, and when I see a sale, I'm just buying it, because I try to keep. This might be a little weird. Besides, I have a couple of reloaders. I got 2 Dillons that I run, a 550 and a Square Deal B. But then on top of that, I try to keep 6,000 rounds of everything that I have. So I don't buy too much into the exotic rounds. I just don't. I keep the basic stuff: 308, 5.56, 9, and 45. So in the main guns that I run, I want to have 6,000 rounds on hand at all times. And that's not my shooting ammo. That's my storage ammo that I cycle out.
Wow, 6,000 rounds. That's a lot of ammo. That's a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm probably sitting on 2,500 rounds, maybe 3,000, something
Yeah.
like that, and that's about right. Now, I every month, my YouTube spoils, if you will, that pretty much all goes to ammo, and so I
Yeah.
buy 2 or 3 cases a month, generally two. Depending on how much I'm shooting. I'm not shooting very much right now because of my wrist, but usually it's 1,500 rounds a month, or maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, and so I tend to use what I have. I try and keep a few thousand rounds just because it's that blanket, right? That blankie sort
Yeah.
of deal. But yeah, 6,000. That's a lot. That's a lot of ammo.
Well, and I didn't just go out and buy 6,000 rounds either. That kind of happened because my goal at one point was 10,000. So I wanted 10,000 factory cased ammo, factory loaded ammo, not reloads. And I wanted that just on standby, because you just never know when the next thing is going to happen and things are going to get tight. And then all of a sudden you can't shoot for a couple months. So I kind of, probably about 5 years ago, I started to make that investment where I would buy a little extra, I'd buy an extra case every other month or something like that. And then that was my stockpile. And then as I continued to buy every month, I would just cycle that out. So I'm not keeping really old ammo. I would just kind of, like your pantry, I buy a new case, I put that in, I grab the bottom one. But yeah, it wasn't cheap to get it going, especially the AR stuff. I mean, the 9 was dirt cheap. And then I quickly realized there's no way I'm going to have 10,000 rounds of the 308 on stock. That was just ridiculous for a while. And I've only got a couple of 308s. But for the 9, the 45, and the 5.56 stuff, I like to keep 6K on hand. That way, if something comes up and happens, I can continue to shoot for 5 or 6 months while things are tight. And then I just bite the bullet and kind of spend the money next time when it comes back around.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's good. That's good. Now, Dexter's got a question for you. What is your issued duty ammo?
Spear Gold Dot plus P. And I promise you it works.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt. Now,
Yeah.
I will admit, I don't shoot plus P hardly ever. And so in a Glock 17, let's say your duty gun, how would you equate or compare that? I'm sure some other people would be curious as well. How would you equate that to like Winchester White Box 115 grain or something? Just some regular range ammo, plinking ammo sort of thing.
It's definitely different. I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you can only do it once or twice a year, go out and shoot 3 or 4 mags of defense ammo, because it is a different experience. And between, I think, was it the critical defense from Hornady or the Spear Gold Dot plus P, it's a snappier round. I mean, it definitely is. It's got a push to it, right? And most of the time, all of us are shooting the white box, or we're shooting cellular and Bella, or the cheapest stuff we can buy, that 115 grain or sometimes 124 grain. And even the AR too, it is a different experience. But I think most people are going to be able to handle it, especially if they're in that self-defense situation. You're probably going to have so much adrenaline going through them that they're not going to even notice the difference.
Right.
You're going to have so much things going on, from auditory exclusion to tunnel vision. I shot out of a car one time. I think it was 11 or 12 rounds from my SBR, and I didn't even hear nothing. I didn't hear anything. I mean, there was brass all over the dash of the car, and I didn't hear a single round go off. I was kind of surprised. I was thinking, man, why am I not deaf? Because I remember in the military shooting the 240. Forgot to put my AirPro on one time. I couldn't hear anybody for a week.
Jeez. So going along with that, Shaq, by the way, thank you very much for the super chat. Shaq, appreciate it. He said buy some ammo. So I'm ammo poor apparently. So I'll buy some more ammo. Appreciate that. But he also said, what is your funniest arrest?
Oh man. It seems to be a consistent thing. You'll be out with somebody and they inevitably want to tell you that these aren't my pants. When you find narcotics or something on them, they're like, "Oh, these ain't my pants. These aren't my pants." There's just you can't say the funniest thing, because every time you think you have seen it all, something happens that you could just never imagine, never explain, and you're just like, "Did I just see that? Did I just witness that as a human being? That happened." It could be, just the weirdest. You're talking about naked people on a phone booth. I'm serious, man. There's just no explaining some of the things that you'll see. But yeah, it always cracks me up when someone tells me these aren't my pants. I can't get enough of that one. So
How do you even react to that? I mean, like they aren't your pants. Whose pants are they?
yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Like, so where'd you get them from? You roll out of bed, you were just grab the guy next to his pants, or what? And then they never have an answer, and then it's just one of those things, and it just never ends, man. There's always something more funny or more shocking down the road, and it's an ever evolving train of laughter. Sometimes there's plenty of serious moments, but there's a lot of laughter when it comes to some of the things you see. It's like the stuff you see on TV, the craziest police chase or the craziest police videos, and you just sit there and you just can't help but laugh. You're like, how did that happen? How
Right.
did this car get on top of that house? How do you make that happen?
Well,
Stuff like that.
I imagine that stuff helps quite a bit. It breaks up not only monotony, but also some high pressure and stressful situations. You got to be able to break that up a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. There's you see things that no human should have to see or go through, and it really wears on people. And that's kind of the thing too, is you oftentimes you kind of devolve into this kind of sixth sense of humor type thing, and that's how most people kind of deal with it a lot. But there's a lot of weird stuff that you'll see, a lot of bad things that you'll see, and you just kind of, however everybody deals with it, you deal with it. But I've always been kind of the comedian type guy, so I play practical jokes on people all the time. They don't like it so much anymore at work, but we've done some interesting things to each other that keep the work environment fun.
Like you empty all their magazines, so when they go out in the field, they have absolutely no ammo with them.
No, no, no. We've done some things. One guy came out and the seats were out of his car. They took the seats out of the car, unbolted them from the car and put them on the side.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
People have been on a call and we've got the spare key to their car and like driven it around the block. So they come out of the call and their car's gone. So
Uh,
long time ago, you can't do that stuff anymore. You get in trouble for it.
that's too bad. I think that's absolutely fantastic. However, I would not want to be the guy that walked out of the house and my car was gone. I would not
Oh,
want
but
to be
yeah,
that guy. So,
fifty
Scott
thousand
K.
dollar police car is gone. Yeah,
Right,
bad
right.
day.
Oops. That is a bad day for sure. Scott K, thank you very much for the super chat. Appreciate it. He's saying buy Sheck some ammo. So it's going to be an ammo exchange from here on out, which is pretty
Yeah.
interesting. Hey, everybody, I'm sure there have been some other questions. We've probably missed them. I apologize for that. So if you want to circle back around, if you've got a question for Tactical Considerations or me or the both of us, be sure to leave them. If you can do the little call out, the at KS Gun Guy, so I can see it. It gives that little orange box over it. That would be delightful. Just it's a little bit easier, but yeah. So C Kim is saying, what city in Arizona do you work? If you want to share that.
I'm not. I can't identify that, but just in the Phoenix metropolitan area.
Okay. All right. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
because I can't act as a representative for the department. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah.
That makes good sense. So Keenan Gilliam is saying we used to put crime scene tape on an officer's car when he was out to lunch. That's pretty good.
Yeah, we filled a guy's whole car with crime scene tape one time, like the whole thing from we had been saving it up from old scenes because you just throw it out. And there was a whole, big 50-gallon drums full of we just shoved it in the guy's car. He comes out and his car is full of crime scene tape.
It's awesome. That's awesome. Non-tactical shooter. Thanks. Appreciate that, man. C Kim is saying hello. He lives in Scottsdale. So fellow Arizonian.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some other things that you do with your channel. One thing that I know you and I share in common a little bit, some of the Polymer 80 stuff. Tell me a little bit how you got into that.
I want to say it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. My buddy did an 80% AR lower, catastrophic failure. I think he tried to use some form of epoxy to keep that thing together. He still has it. It's kind of funny. And I kind of stumbled across when they first came out. I think it was that like Spectre thing. I think he tried it again on that one. And that model didn't work out so well. And then when they came out with their version 2s, I was like, maybe I'll take a look at these things. Because there have been people over the years that have been building the 80% 1911 stuff. And, Lone Wolf has got a frame out and all those stuff. So I ordered one, man, and I built it. And that thing just ran and ran and ran and ran. And I couldn't believe how easy it was to do. And then it functioned that good. It had a little bit better ergonomics than the Glock did out of the box for sure. But I just found it kind of fun because it's at the end of the day, I like building stuff. I find it fun, and then I like kind of, you can customize it however you want. It's like Burger King. That's what I always tell people. You get to have it your way, right?
Right. Now, do you ever look back at a build and you're like, okay, totally satisfied, done? Or do you always want to continue to tinker and do more with it?
No, in fact, this one I actually got it. So that one that I did with Thrash Tactical.
Mm-hmm.
So this one right here, he did the slide and the magwell, and then that Steel City, or the Steel City magwell, and then Thrash Tactical did the mag extension and that Overwatch trigger. And then I got that Boogeyman Customs barrel. So this one, especially when I threw those Strike Industries blade sights on it, this is one that I'll never change from what it is. And I like the way it turned out. Everything in it functioned flawlessly. And at the end of the day, when I look at this thing, I almost feel like I'm a kid again, getting to pick out my first gun, because every time I pick it up, I'm like, man, I love this thing. It's fun to shoot. It's a snappy little guy, but that one is one that I'll probably never do anything with. And then when I look back at some of the stuff, I think of everything as kind of like a learning experience. So, the first one I built did very stock. The next one I started kind of throwing in some different stuff. And that's kind of how I actually fell into starting the YouTube channel, was because as I was asking different people and talking to some different people, because my scope of everything before that was really just directly related to, would I use this for work or would I use this in a real scenario? And there's a lot of gear and stuff out there that when you look at it, it looks cool, but probably not something I'm going to carry into a room with me if we're going to go live. So that's kind of what led me down that path. And then I was just, who doesn't want more guns? Right.
Right. Well, it's funny. Kevin Roberts is saying once you get a good shooting Glock, you can't shoot other good guns as well anymore. What do you think of that?
So I've been back and forth on that because that grip down, I think it's 22 degrees on the Glock, plus you got the Glock hump. That angle is so aggressive that I really have to pay attention when I'm shooting other guns, because it changes the angle of your wrist, because you get used to the Glock. Or I was coming out of my 1911 and I was every time I'd shoot a body shot, I was shooting in the neck, because that grip was so aggressively angled that I was shooting high on Glock as compared to my 1911s, because it's got a straighter angle. So it's back and forth, because you spend a good day at the range training hard with one of your 1911s or something, and then the next day you go and you shoot your Glock and you're all over the place, right? Because your neural pathways are saying 1911, but you're like, no, there's a Glock in my hand. So
Right.
it's one of those things that goes back and forth with me for sure,
Interesting. Well, that's part of the fun of it. I mean, now for you, I imagine you have to be pretty dedicated, especially to your service firearm and putting a lot of rounds through it. So that becomes kind of second nature to you. One thing that I talk about a little bit on some of our chats, whether with Big Johnson and 17 or just my own chats, whatever, that I'm shooting a different gun every week. I mean, I was shooting a Staccato P a couple of weeks ago, and then the Beretta APX Carry the very next week. You can't get more different firearms than that.
Yeah.
Completely different in size and weight and functionality, the whole 9 yards. It's totally different, and it's a really weird experience. I mean, I've got a Beretta 92 that I need to start working with. Once again, very different than both of those, and it becomes
Yeah.
really different to adjust. I mean, how long does it take you to adjust to a new platform when you're bringing that on?
I would say, I mean, if it's one, because a lot of the Striker Fire stuff is very very similar, and then the 1911, the metal stuff is usually fairly similar. What I find it most difficult to go into is the like subcompact stuff, especially when you get into like the Walther PPS, that first generation that had the trigger guard mag release, or the VP9s, the trigger guard mag release, the paddle down there. Just because the size of my hand, that actually puts me in a worse position to have to try and bring my thumb back and down. I've had some trouble with that. So I've actually had to go to where once I come over, I leave my finger straight along the frame rail, but I use my second finger to push down sometimes. That for me is the toughest. But as far as going from like a 1911 to a Glock, I want to say it usually takes a couple of mags, like 2-3 mags, and then I start realizing I kind of have that instantaneous like response. Wrong gun, or something like that if I'm out there training. Which is why I haven't gone back to the 1911, because I've been out of it for about a year and a half now, and I know that going back into it for duty carry, I need probably a good month to go out there and hammer it just super hard and get back to that thumb sweep and everything, to get that safety down and all that stuff. So you're not running it in kind of a ineffective manner out there.
Right. Yeah, and I imagine that that safety, and that's something that people talk about all the time, because the manual of arms of a 1911, of course, is very different. So you've got that extra step that you've got to accomplish. So I imagine that takes some time to really get back into a good routine and know exactly when you're going to be disengaging that safety and bringing that firearm up.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's no such thing as slack in a 1911 trigger.
Right.
So
None.
yeah, and I've seen it on the range, or I've seen guys, they skin that 1911 and they punch out, and it's and they're about to push the trigger through the frame because that safety is still on.
Right.
I've seen it. So I mean, luckily for me, I grew up shooting them, so it's kind of second nature. But once you spend a year daily carrying something different. It's a little bit of a struggle getting back into, a couple mags, maybe a half day at the range, just doing some. What I like to do is just, one, two, three, fours, the mags. So I'll load all the 1911 mags or Glock mags or something or whatever I'm going to shoot with one, two, three, or four rounds, and then just mix them up in my bag and stick them in my different gun belts. That way I don't know which one it is, and that just forces me to do a couple rounds mag change, 1 round mag change, and then some dummy rounds in there for those immediate action drills and things like that. So that's how I overcome it. Is I just get all my mags and load them 1, 2, 3, 4, and mix them up, throw them in the bag, pull them out, load them, and just go out and shoot it till it's gone.
Nice. Now, C Kim has a very good question, and this has been a recurring topic for quite some time because it's becoming more prevalent on the market. But he asked, what are your thoughts on carry optics?
Oh man, I'm 50-50. So like the RMRs and stuff, I've got them. Obviously, they're on my channel. They're fun. So one thing that I've noticed is they'll make a bad shooter worse, right? And the quality has come up quite a bit. They're not having the issues they did when the RMRs first came out and were being used. I like them, and I think eventually that's where everything is going to go. Same thing as the aim points when they came out on the rifles and stuff in the military, or the Trijicons and stuff. But like right now, I want to see a little bit more time in the technology, and it takes a lot of practice. Because you're dealing with a different focal point, right? So on a handgun, front sight, right? But when you're pulling out your rifle and you go with your aim point or your Trijicon or whatever, what are you focusing on? The target. You're focusing on the target, and then the dot or your reticle is just there, right?
Right.
So we do the opposite with a pistol, but now you have to retrain years of training to focus on target, and then the dot comes into it. At least that's how I shoot. That's how I was always trained. So it's something to overcome. The other thing is the maintenance. It's constant maintenance, battery maintenance. It's got a shorter lifespan on a pistol. And if you watch there was a specific shooting in Vegas where they have very close quarters engagement. I think they were probably about 10 yards, and you can actually see the officers. They're doing this one because they're looking for that dot. Right.
Yeah.
Because it's so, and I hate to have to bring that out because I hate to Monday morning quarterback people, but it was just extremely prevalent where you can see that gun movement, and I know what it is because that's what I did the first time I got a red dot on a handgun. Where the hell's the dot? Because your draw stroke's a little different. But there are ways to overcome that, and I've never really heard anybody explain that well. But like on an RMR, you have that top that's kind of narrowed in like that. But what I've found just by practicing is when you draw out, if you bring that up and you put that top of the RMR right on the shoulders, you're dead center mass. Oh. So you don't even have to think about anything. You punch that out, and as long as the top section where that little bow is in the RMR, if you put that right at the shoulder line, you're there. It helps quite a bit. It's just a little bit different with the Vortex stuff because it's an arced window. So if you pretty much think about that, drawing a line across a line across the eyes, you'll see that you're instantaneously on target a little quicker. But once you get used to them, though, those red dots are dangerously quick, man.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool. Now, so we've got a lot of questions about this, and Darren Blair was saying SWAT in Omaha is using red dots on duty. Are you seeing more red dots where you are? More guys going?
Yeah, we're approved right now. In fact, we just sent our guys to Vegas, and the Vegas boys did an instructor course for them. We've got several setups outfit with different optics, the Delta Point, the RMR, the SIG Romeo. Those are the only ones that we approved right now. They're looking at approving the Vortex, but that one's still being tested. I think the guy that's running that right now, that thing looks like it got run over by a tank. They have beat the tar out of that thing. I want to say they've got over 10,000 rounds through it, and it's still holding together. But for now, it's just the SIG, the RMR, and the Delta Point that are approved. And it's coming, man. I mean, that's just the way it's going to go. It's an inevitable thing in the future. My thing is, it's a lot of training. It's a huge investment because it's approved, but it's all on you. So you got to buy your MOS, you got to buy your optic, you got to buy your holster. So they're not going to supply that for you. So you're talking $1,500 now in a rig just to run an optic, which is good or bad because depending on how much you train with it, are you checking the battery, or have you just been in a struggle? Did you break that glass? Do you have backup sites? There's so much stuff that goes into it. But it's going to come. I want to say probably if I had to guess, probably 5 to 8 years, and they're going to be issuing those things to everybody.
Wow.
Yeah, I see it coming.
That's crazy.
It's cool. I mean, I'll take a free RMR. I'm not gonna
Yeah, I could see that. That's very interesting. Do you see in civilian firearms? Are you seeing it more and more?
Absolutely, man. Uh, it's funny. We have a ton of technology. We're like Arizona's like the Silicon Valley of the desert, right? So you've got so many technology companies out here. General Dynamics, Intel's got 3 or 4 plants, Honeywell, Motor, just tons and tons of technology companies. And I always kind of laugh because you want to know where the biggest congregation of people that have FFLs is. Intel employees.
Yeah.
Intel employees.
Intel employees. That's funny.
I mean, I'm not kidding you. Every other person that you meet that works at Intel has an FFL. It cracks me up because you get an FFL and an SOT. Now you get to have full auto suppressed SBRs, and it's all under the SOT or the FFL, right? That's you sell it. That's how they do it. So they've got all kinds of cool stuff, but they've got money. So out here, guys run optics all the time. I mean, it's getting huge in the civilian market because a lot of guys out here. We've got major ranges out here that do a lot of competition. So a lot of guys are running optics on everything. And it's cool, man. I like to see it. I like to see how the market evolves and the new products that come out. So it's definitely going to be probably the thing of the future. You're probably going to start seeing more companies put more guns out with them on there. Like Smith is doing that, or Smith and Wesson M&Ps are selling them with optics now. So is SIG. Probably going to see Glock start doing that at some point. I would assume because that's just people are going to want to buy them instead of having iron sights, have an optic on it.
Right. Yeah, we've been talking about that as well. I mean, more options at least are going to be cut, if nothing else. Whether it's going to be an MOS type of thing or it's going to be cut for a specific RMR like SIG does. We're seeing that more and more, which is great. The one thing that I find a little bit challenging or a little bit frustrating is it's not there's not a universal mount.
I know.
Right.
I wish they could just get together and go with one screw style and one freaking mounting solution. That way the slide could be milled instead of having to use the plates, because inevitably you're not getting a whole lot of thread in the plates. And then you're kind of, you got to get some just insanely tall sights depending on which gun it's going on. Yeah, I wish they would just get together as a whole and say, hey, let's just make it like this. And do it on Trijicons because they did it first.
Right. I mean, I would say the same thing. Very true. So we've got a couple of minutes. Tell us a little bit about what's coming up on your channel. And by the way, everybody, be sure, if you haven't already, hopefully you have, jump out to his channel after the chat, subscribe to him. Lots of really good stuff. And what kind of stuff is coming up?
So I've got some more gun stuff coming up. Just straight gun reviews because I do a lot of product stuff on just things that I find that's fun. So got that. I've got a Kimber 1911 video coming up. I've got my Ruger PC9 rifle. I love that thing. That thing it reminds me of the first little rifle that I had as a kid. And then the way it's kind of going to be built, it really reminds me of like a SOCOM 2 that I had not too long ago. Some CZ stuff, lots of AR stuff is coming. And hopefully there will be some people coming in the near future that will be doing since I'm not going to be doing tactical stuff, I'm going to be bringing some people in that are just going to do some stuff that should be pretty interesting. And the one guy specifically works at a pretty cool local place and has some pretty good things going on. So hopefully just to help out people if they're having any struggles with their shooting or their skill set or anything like that. So
nice. And any last minute thoughts?
Oh man, everybody out there, just keep doing what you're doing. Support support your 2A guys and your 2A stuff. They're getting the good stuff out there. And, I appreciate you having me on, man. It's a lot of fun. I've got to talk to you a couple times now. And, I got to try that Archon, man. I watched that video you did on that thing, and it just got me so curious that I need to go out and find one of those locally and shoot it. So other than that, man, I just appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate everybody that asked questions and was there. And I hope they all get out to the range and don't just sit around watching the YouTube all day.
But watch our stuff first, of course.
Yeah, watch our stuff and then go to the range.
Then go to the range. Do whatever you want to do after that. It's totally fine. So, well, listen, it has been a blast having you on. We will do this again. It's just been a lot of fun to get to know you. Your content is fantastic. I love seeing it. It's really cool stuff. And to everybody else out there, thank you guys again for hanging out with us, giving us an hour of your Tuesday evening. We really appreciate that. But otherwise, everybody stay safe, shoot straight, and we'll be back tomorrow night. I'm not sure where we're going to be for the Three Guys chat yet, but well, I'm sure there will be an announcement tomorrow, and then we'll do this again hopefully next week. We shall see. But otherwise, everybody, thanks so much again. Tactical Considerations, thank you, and everybody go subscribe to his channel. It'll be well worth your time. So thanks, everybody.
See you guys.
See ya.